ensure that some deals materialize during this short visit. But we've been made to understand that Trump's schedule is not as packed on day one. What we know is that he did have a discussion with MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, on a multitude of issues, some of which were not shared with the journalists here. After which, he actually paid a visit to the King of Saudi Arabia, King Salman, for a short discussion. And he participated as well in the Saudi Investment Forum. Not many details have been shared as yet with journalists here. We have about 300 plus journalists from across many countries across the world. Details have been quite scarce, to be honest with you, because of security reasons, logistical reasons, etc. So I guess at this point, the guessing game remains the same in terms of which issues will dominate discussions between these two nations. As we've shared over the past 2 days or so, you know, the Gaza conflict remains one issue that's definitely going to be top of the agenda. Increased geopolitical tensions across the globe, as well as increased volatility and tensions within the Middle East itself, involving Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Iran, Israel. These are all the things that are expected to be top of the list in terms of the discussions that are going to be had. But one priority is, of course, economic and investment agreements. It is said that both countries expect from each other certain level of pledges in terms of investments towards one another. As we've known, Saudi Arabia has already pledged to invest $600 billion into the US over the next 4 years. This is shortly after it announced an arms purchase from the US amounting to about $3.5 billion. Qatar, shortly before the arrival of Trump in Saudi, also pledged arms purchase from American companies amounting to around $1.5 trillion US. And Trump is also said to court more investments, and so do the Saudis, Qataris and Emiratis. So it's all a numbers game as far as we know now in terms of both parties, or all four parties rather, Qatar and UAE, wanting more investments from one another for different reasons. But of course, this is also against the backdrop of many political and geopolitical issues that are expected to be discussed. But as I've said, not many details have been shared. We of course will update you from time to time in terms of any new updates that's going to coming up. It's still unclear whether President Trump will want to hold a press conference at some point. What we do know is he's going to be speaking at the Saudi Investment Forum. He also brought numerous notable American business leaders along with him, including Elon Musk, the Tesla founder, and the CEOs of multiple American companies, especially arms manufacturers. So it remains to be seen what's going to be discussed and what's going to come out of these meetings. Of course, we will update you soon as we can on Channel 501, all our social platforms, as well as astroawani.com. For now, we go back from Riyadh to Bukit Jalil. Farhana, all yours.
Right, thank you, Lokman. We'll be sure to keep following closely. Here's another top news following the recent tariff talk between US and China. President Donald Trump has cut tariffs on small parcels from mainland China and Hong Kong to the US. This comes just after the world's two largest economies agreed to a 90-day pause on new tariffs. The new rate for small packages valued up to $800 has been reduced from 120% to 54%, according to a White House statement. The flat fee per item remains at $100 for shipments sent after May 2nd, scrapping the planned $200 charge initially set for 1st June. Trump ended the minimis exemption in February, which had previously allowed low-value imports to bypass taxes. His initial plan was to impose a 120% tariff on packages of the same value or planned $200 flat fee, targeting companies like Shein and Temu, citing concerns over trafficking of fentanyl and other illicit goods. The latest tariff adjustments follow a joint US-China announcement to scale back its tit-for-tat tariffs temporarily and resume trade negotiations in last weekend high-level talks in Switzerland. Right, we unpack more on Trump's visit after this break.
Daulat tuanku.
Di dalam setiap berita yang dibawa, konteks amat penting. Kami sentiasa membawakan yang tergempar dan terkini. Pastikan Astro AWANI menjadi pilihan anda, tidak kira di mana sahaja anda berada.
Welcome back. Saudi Arabia has been Trump's first stop in both terms as president. What makes this nation so crucial to the US? Let's find out from Dr. Firoz Ali, Senior Lecturer at the Faculty of Law and International Relations, UNISA.
Indeed, we are looking into a more transactional, business-oriented kind of deal where in the past he had done the same. Back in 2017, when he visited Riyadh in the Riyadh Summit, he engaged in various contracts, deal making to an amount of 267 billion US dollars. Therefore, I believe he is looking forward to replicate the same success that he had in 2017 in 2025. Analysts reported there are different deals waiting for him in Riyadh. Some of the deals center on arms trade between Riyadh and also America. And there's also been reports about Saudi Arabia planning to pledge at least $600 billion of investment into United States in different areas, in AI, tourism, aerospace, and a few other sectors. Now, for Trump, this is good news if it materializes, because this is a big amount of money that can be brought forward to the United States. It can be used to empower the economy of United States, create industries, create more jobs, something which is in line with his overall "Make America Great Again" mantra.
As President Trump visits Riyadh, the decision to exclude Israel from his itinerary raises eyebrows. What does this signify about his relationship with Israeli leadership? Dr. Firoz Ali shares more about this.
Now, with all that being said, it is also important to slightly tilt towards politics in terms of his potentially projection of message to visit Riyadh first. Now, an interesting part in his visit is that he excluded Israel from his visit, something that he did not do in 2017. So he excluded Israel from the itinerary. Many interpretation here, but one obvious factor is the souring of his relationship with Netanyahu. This can be sourced from the fact that Donald Trump is getting impatient with Netanyahu feet-dragging on seeking a ceasefire deal with Hamas and also extracting the remaining hostages inside Gaza.
Wall Street's three major indexes rallied sharply on Monday, with the S&P 500 hitting its highest levels since early March. This happens as a US-China agreement to temporarily slash tariffs brought some hopes for the easing of a global trade war. The US and China announced on Monday that they would slash steep tariffs on each other for 90 days. The US said it will cut tariffs imposed on Chinese imports to 30% from 145%, while China said it would cut duties on US imports to 10% from 125%. Investors showed some relief by favoring riskier assets and turning away from more defensive bets, but they were still left waiting for clarity on where tariffs would ultimately settle.
Investors got a much hoped for reprieve with some positive news in the trade front. Now we're going to see stocks close the day up pretty precipitously. We'll also see the dollar strengthen against the euro. and we see bonds slide, which sort of, I think, is the tell that investors need to take as a dose of medicine with some of the good news. All of these correlations are holding together, stocks are rebounding, but the bond market is still flashing a sign that this is great news for the next 90 days, but they're growing a little bit tired of these 90-day extensions.
Mexico expects the scheduled review of its trilateral trade pact with the US and Canada to begin ahead of time. Although the review of the US-Mexico-Canada Agreement, or USMCA, is officially set for 2026, Mexico's Economy Minister Marcelo Ebrard indicates that discussions could start as early as the second half of this year. The USMCA, which replaced the North American Free Trade Agreement in 2020 and was negotiated during US President Donald Trump's first term, requires the three countries to hold a joint review after 6 years. Trump has publicly pushed for the agreement to be renegotiated ahead of time and has called for the U.S. to receive better trade terms with all of its commercial partners. The strong-arm tactics have led to sweeping tariffs from the U.S. and fears of a global economic slowdown. Despite the tariffs, the USMCA is still in effect, only affecting shipments of products such as steel and completed automobiles from Mexico into the United States. China will commit credit lines of just under $10 billion to Latin American countries to support development. However, Chinese President Xi Jinping says the support will come in yuan. He delivered a speech to kick off a ministerial meeting of the China Select Forum, a platform for cooperation between China and Latin American and Caribbean nations. Speaking at the forum's opening, Xi said there are no winners in tariff wars and trade wars.
关税战、贸易战没有赢家，霸凌霸道只会孤立自身。中国同拉美和加勒比国家都是全球南方重要成员，独立自主是我们的光荣传统，发展振兴 是我们的天然权利，公平正义是我们的共同追求。
The China Select Forum challenges long-standing American geopolitical and economic dominance in the region, which the Trump administration has sought to counter. The event takes place after a weekend of high-stakes trade talks between the US and China that ended on a positive note. That wraps up AWANI International. Stay tuned for reports on the rivalry strategies and the shifts behind the power affairs driving the new global order. Visit international.astrawani.com for more and be sure to follow our social media accounts, Power Affairs. That is all for now. I'm Farhana Sheikh. Thank you and good night.